Hello friends, welcome to Easy Nurse, where nursing education made easy. So as your exams are coming, are you guys ready for your exams? If no, then don't worry. We Easy Nurse team are here to guide you for the exam so that you can take a good marks in your results. So in this session, I will be starting with the anatomy and physiology and will tell you the most important question and tell you the easy hack how to crack your exam. So do not worry and just stay tuned with us. So let's start our session without any delay. So our subject is applied anatomy and applied physiology. So in this session, I have divided different type of topics in anatomy and physiology, both with the function and the structure of the organs, okay, so that no organs will be missed out and also you will be recovering your knowledge regarding these topics. Okay, so our first topic is blood supply to the heart or about the heart. If any kind of question that come regarding the blood circulation of the heart or how blood circulation happen in the heart, okay, or tell the physiology of the blood circulation of heart, then you can explain it, and also you can explain the structure of the heart very nicely. Okay, and one thing I cannot do is I can't make you practice the structure of the heart to draw the diagram. Okay, so just practice once or twice. It is very easy. It's nothing very complicated. Okay, so see what is mean by heart. Heart is a hollow muscular organ. It contains 4 chambers: left atrium, right atrium, left ventricle and right ventricle. So in this ventricle only our main circulation of blood happens. Why blood circulation is important? Because it exchanges the nutrients like oxygen, different kind of minerals, protein, any kind of food that our cells need. Okay, everything will be done through this blood. So the heart receives blood from right to left coronary arteries. Okay, that I will discuss in detail, so do not worry. So as I told, heart have 4 chambers. Right atrium, just give me 1 second guys. Yeah, so heart have 4 chambers, which is right atrium, right ventricle, left atrium and left ventricle. So how this blood circulation actually happen? See, here in the right side we actually receive the deoxygenated blood or carbon dioxide mixed blood, whereas in the left atrium and left ventricle we receive oxygenated blood from the lungs. Okay, so how this happen? So in first, from the body cells, from the body cells our blood collect carbon dioxide or toxin substances through the veins, and through the veins it will come to superior vena cava and inferior vena cava. Then the blood will reach to the right atrium, both from the superior and inferior vena cava. Then excuse me. Okay, so then it will travel through the tricuspid valve, which is the valve between the right atrium and right ventricle. Then it will reach to the right ventricle, and then this blood will travel through the pulmonary artery, where it will pass the pulmonary valve. Now this deoxygenated blood will reach to lungs through the pulmonary artery. Okay, it will reach to the lungs. Okay, so just consider it as our lungs. So now in lungs what happened? The gas exchange will be there through our inhalation and exhalation process, and on that way the blood will be release the carbon dioxide and it will consume the oxygen. So that oxygenated blood will come through the aorta. Okay, sorry, the oxygenated blood will come through the pulmonary vein. Now here is a twist. We know that vein carries deoxygenated blood and artery carries oxygenated blood. But here is the difference in the heart. Okay, in the heart we have pulmonary artery and pulmonary vein along with the lungs. Okay, so pulmonary artery carries deoxygenated blood towards the lung, whereas the pulmonary vein carry oxygenated blood towards the heart from the lungs. Okay, so that oxygenated blood will come through the pulmonary veins. Okay, and it will travel through the left atrium, where it will pass the mitral valve. Okay, it is called as mitral valve. This is our mitral valve. It will pass the mitral valve and it will go to the left ventricle. Then from again left ventricle, it will cross the aortic valve, and from the aorta it will the oxygenated blood will supply to our whole body. Okay, so this is how blood circulation actually happen. Okay. So as we told, we have two types of artery, right coronary artery and left coronary artery. So right coronary artery arrays from the aorta and supplies to the right atrium and ventricles, SA node 60% and AV node. Okay, then the left coronary artery divides into left anterior descending artery, or also called as LAD, supplies to the anterior intraventricular septum and the left ventricle. The left circumflex artery supplies the left atrium and the lateral wall. Okay, also the blood flow mainly occurs during the diastole. Now systole and diastole is a completely different topic. Just to know this, okay, it can come as a 1 mark MCQ, so you can write it down, okay, or you can note it down. So blood flow mainly occurs during the diastole. Excuse me. So this is how blood circulation happen. Okay, so let's just remind once. So from the body tissue through the vena cava superior and inferior, the deoxygenated blood come into right atrium. It will pass the tricuspid valve or AV node, we can say. Okay, and it will pass through the ventricle again through the pulmonary semilunar valves, and it will go to the pulmonary arteries, and from the pulmonary arteries it will sent into lungs. In lungs, the CO2 and O2 will be exchanged. Then the oxygenated blood will come into the pulmonary veins. Through the pulmonary veins, it will go in the right atrium. It will cross the bicuspid AV valve and go to the left ventricle. From the left ventricle, it will go to the aorta by passing the aortic semilunar valve, and from the aorta, it will spread to the body tissue. So this is how blood supply actually happen in the heart. In the next question, we will definitely discuss heart in detail. Okay, so do not worry. The next most important organ is lung. So as we know, we have two lungs. Okay, in a human body we have two lungs, where the right lung is a little bit bigger than the left one, and also it is actually located in the thoracic cavity. Okay, or our rib cage carries the lungs. Okay, so it is located in the thoracic cavity, one of each side of the heart. Okay, so one lobe, not one lobe, one of the lungs is little attached to the heart. Okay, each lung is shaped a conical. Now how conical shape look like? So this is what we can call it as conical shape. Okay, conical shape. So, and it end with the apex top, and the base is the diaphragm. Okay, and on the side of the to lungs, okay, in the down we have diaphragm. Diaphragm is the most important muscle which helps in the blood circulation of the heart, and also it regulates the inhalation and exhalation process, because while inhaling the diaphragm push the lungs, okay, while inhalation and exhalation diaphragm push up and push down it, okay, so that the inhalation and exhalation process can proceed. So now we will see how the lungs actually look like. So this is the shape of the lungs. This is the left lung and this is the right lung. So right lung have 3 lobes, whereas the left one has only 2 lobes, and the superior lobe is the most biggest lobe in the right lung, and we also have middle lobe and inferior lobe. In the left side we only have 2 lobes, okay, inferior and superior. Okay, so in the left lung we can see a cardiac notch. Why it is called as cardiac notch? Okay, so this is a very important question as well. Or what is cardiac notch? So cardiac notch is a curve in the left lung, okay, because of the situation or because of the position of the heart, the left lung is slightly curved inside, okay, and it is called as cardiac notch. So it divided into lobes, as I told, right and left. Right one have 3 lobes and left one have 2 lobes. It covered by pleura. So as we know, like all of the most major organs are covered by some layers. So it is covered by the pleura, which is containing 2 layers, visceral and parietal layers. Now the lungs have its units. The most smallest unit of lung is alveoli. So if you see the structure of lung, you can see so if you see the structure, you can able to see that the primary, okay, sorry, the main or primary bronchus you can able to see, which will be start from the trachea, okay, after trachea it will start and it will be attached to the lungs and it will spread inside the lungs, where the bronchi will be present. These are called as bronchi. These are bronchioles, and after the branches you can able to see small air sacs, okay, or small bag of ears where actually the gas exchange happen. These are called as alveoli, okay. So why kind of COPD patient, okay, or chronic obstructive pulmonary disease patient or TB patient, okay, tuberculosis patient, why they feel so much difficulty while breathing? Because in those cases mucus were filled with, alveoli are filled with mucus, okay, and because of that it makes them very difficult to breathe in and breathe out, okay. So this is about the anatomy of the lungs. Let's see the physiology, okay, how the process happened. So the process we will see. Before that we will see what are the functions of lungs, okay. So it performs the external respiration, okay. So whatever respiration happen except the one which is happening inside the cell, okay, is called as external respiration. The oxygen enters the alveoli and it will diffuse into the blood, and the CO2, carbon dioxide, will move from the blood to the alveoli and it will be exhaled through our mouth and nose, okay. So this is the actual physiology or functions of the lung. Now we will see how it happens. So while inhalation, what happened? Okay, so while inhalation, as I told before, there is a diaphragm muscle, okay, under the lungs. Okay, how it helps? The diaphragm muscle actually contracts, okay, when the inhalation happen. Why? Because while the inhalation process, we will take oxygen or air inside our lungs, right? So the space should be expand. So if it will descend or if it will contract, then the lungs can expand. Okay, the lungs can expand as much as possible. Then and this is the large muscle under our lungs, okay, and then the lungs will inflate, or it will be, it will expand. Then the oxygen will flow from our nose and mouth to the trachea, from the trachea to the bronchi. Okay, and these are bronchi, to the bronchi, and bronchi from the bronchi to the bronchioles, and the bronchioles to alveoli, and from alveoli it will mix with the blood and it will pass through the blood, but extremely sorry for that. Okay, I just blabbered. Okay, so from the alveoli the oxygen will be dissolved in the blood vessels, and this is the main mechanism of inhalation process. But how exhalation happen? Now see, the inhalation process was starting from the outside. Okay, we are taking from the outside, external, we are taking the oxygen. But in the inhalation process, the diaphragm will expand. Okay, the diaphragm will expand and it will push the lungs. Okay, it will push the lungs. So the lungs will deflate or it will constrict. So it will, the carbon dioxide which flows from the blood vessels, okay, which flows from the blood vessel and collected from the heart and all that blood, from that blood the alveoli will collect the carbon dioxide in exchange of the oxygen. Okay, when in the last process we have seen from the alveoli the gas exchange happened. Okay, so this is the main thing. Okay, so if you consider it as alveoli, when the oxygen is entering through the inhalation process, okay, when the oxygen is entering through the inhalation process, the carbon dioxide from the blood will enter into the alveoli and it will pass through the alveoli to the bronchioles, then bronchi, trachea, and through the trachea, nose and mouth it will travel and it will exhale. Okay, so this is how the inhalation and exhalation process happens. So this is what about lungs. Next we'll have is structure of the nephron and the function. So what is nephron? Nephron is the smallest functional unit of kidney. What is kidney now? Kidney is an organ that filtrates our body fluid, okay, and it helps us to remove the toxins from the blood. Okay, so see, kidney is an organ of it is a part of our urinary system. So we have two bean-shaped kidney in our body. Okay, so as I told, it is a functional unit of kidney. So what are the components of the nephrons? Are we understand that this is a unit, but what are the components of the nephrons? So if we see kidney in a picture, we can able to see there are renal artery, segmental arteries are present, anterior arteries, accurate arteries, and intralobular arteries. So in the arcuate arteries we can see the nephrons. Now, as nephrons are the functional unit of kidney, nephrons are responsible for the absorption and filtration of the fluid. Okay, so you can see here there are different parts of this, or components also you can say, which are Bowman capsule, This is our Bowman's capsule. Okay, then we have glomerulus. This is the glomerulus. Okay, inside the Bowman's capsule we have glomerulus. Then proximal convoluted duct or PCT. This is the proximal convoluted duct. Then loop of Henle. This is called loop of Henle. Then distal convoluted duct or DCT. This is the distal convoluted duct. And collecting duct. Okay. This is the collecting duct, where they are collecting the product that are needed for the body. Okay, so these are the components of the nephrons. Now let's see what are the functions. Then we will discuss in detail that how this is happening, this process is happening. Okay, so let's get just clear first with the what are the functions of nephron. So the functions are mainly filtration of the blood, reabsorption of water and electrolytes before the urine formation, secretion of waste products. Okay. So here I have mentioned one detailed picture. So here you can see this is the most simplest version. This also you can copy for your exams and all. Okay, to understand like or to draw a diagram if they ask. Okay, so first one is glomerulus, which is the first one is glomerulus, which is the thread like structure, okay, which filtrates the small solutes from the blood. What are the solutes? Solute like different types of minerals, salts, okay, this kind of thing. So it filtrates the small solutes from the blood. Then we have proximal convoluted duct or PCT, proximal convoluted tubule, which reabsorbs the ions, water and nutrients, and also it removes the toxin and adjusts the filtrate pH. Okay, the fluid pH it will adjust. Then we have descending loop of Henle or descending convoluted tubule. So this one is aquaporins, which allows the water to pass from the filtrate into the intestinal fluid, whereas the ascending loop of Henle will reabsorb the sodium ion and calcium ion from the filtrate into the interstitial fluid. So this both are filtrating the ions from the fluid, and it is giving into the intestinal fluid. Okay, remember this. Okay, so next one we have is distal tubule, which selectively secretes or absorbs. This is the distal tubule, selectively secretes and absorbs the different ions to maintain the blood pH. Our blood pH is most normal. Okay, so this is not acidic or not too much alkali. So the distal tubule actually maintain the blood pH. It selectively secretes and absorbs different ions and maintain the blood pH and electrolyte balance inside our body. Lastly, we have collecting duct, where the collective products like fluid, ions, minerals, okay, it will be reabsorbed the solutes and water from the filtrate. Okay, so as I told, these are the filtrates. So whatever they will filter out, like from the water, if they are filtering out the ions or the minerals, okay, whatever it is, so it will be absorbed through the collecting duct, okay, into the body. So how this process is happening? So first the blood will enters in the glomerulus. Okay, it will enter in the glomerulus. From the glomerulus, the filtration of water and solutes will occur. From there, it will go to the Bowman's capsule. It will go into the capsule, and again it will collect the filtrate. So Bowman capsules, what happened? It will not filtrate, rather than it will collect the filtrate products. Okay, then it will go to the proximal convoluted tubule, where the reabsorption of what one time it already happened and Bowman's capsule have already collected the filtrates, but again the water will go to the, or the fluid will go to the proximal convoluted tubule, and it will reabsorb the water, sodium ions, glucose, amino acid, okay, so, and it will secrete the H plus or hydrogen ions and toxins. Excuse me, guys. Okay, so now the fourth step is loop of Henle. So what happened in the loop of Henle? In this, in the descending part of loop of Henle, the water will be reabsorbed, and in the ascending duct the salts reabsorption will happen, but here no water will be absorbed. Okay, the water will only absorbed in the descending part. Then after that, that fluid will go to descending convoluted tubule, where reabsorption of sodium, calcium ion will happen, and then it will also secrete the hydrogen and potassium ions through the hormone regulation. Okay, then after that, in the collecting duct the fluid will come, the ADH controlled water reabsorption will occur, and some urea will reabsorb from that fluid. Lastly, whatever the product will be left, that we will call it as urine. From the urine, and the urine will be collected through in the renal pelvis. Okay, it will pass through the ureter. From the ureter, it will go to the bladder. From the bladder to urethra, and the excretion will happen. So this is how kidney or nephron is actually functioning. Okay, this is a very short pattern I told, because for you guys this is the basic. Okay, so if you write this also, you will get a very good marks, but do not forget to mention or to draw the diagram. Okay, so this is the structure of the nephron and the functions. Let's move on to our next topic, which is structure and function of the spinal cord. So what is spinal cord? Spinal cord is a thread-like structure which starts from medulla oblongata in the midbrain, and its end in our spinal vertebrae. Okay, so it is a part of our central nervous system. Okay, it extends from medulla oblongata to lumbar 1 and lumbar 2 vertebrae. It ends. It protected by the vertebrae and meninges and CSF. Vertebrae are the these are the bone structure. The meninges is the layer of the central nervous system. It covering the spinal cord and the brain. And CSF, which is cerebrospinal fluid, to avoid any kind of friction or any kind of trauma related injury to the spinal cord and brain. Then it divided into three parts: cervical, thoracic, lumbar, sacral, coccygeal segment. So why it is divided into this type of part? See, after the brain, if we see, this is our head, right? So up to this is the brain. From the back side, okay, from the cervical area to our thoracic, to lumbar, okay, to sacral, to coccygeal, okay, up to there our spinal cord is spread. So to protect that, there is different bone structure, but it is aligned in one line. Okay, not in a straight line, but it aligned in a line to protect that part, because it is very, it is very delicate, and it is it come along with different types of cranial nerves, and also it is the pathway to attach the central nervous system to the peripheral nervous system. Okay, so the central matter of the spinal cord is called as gray matter, which is H-shaped, and it's surrounded by the white matter. Okay, so here you can see this is the gray matter and it's surrounded by the white matter. So if we see in the vertebrae very closely, we can see in the vertebrae there are sensory root and spinal root. Okay, this is sensory root, this is spinal root, this is motor root. Okay, and inside this we have dorsal column, lateral spictorium tract. Okay, so different detailed anatomy is there, but you don't have to know that much. Okay, this is enough. So what is the function of the spinal cord? So spinal cord actually conducts the nerve impulses to body towards the body from the brain or from the brain to the body. Okay, it is a reflex center or spinal reflexes, and it connects peripheral nervous system to central nervous system. So see, the first part of the spinal cord, okay, which start from C5 to C8, what it does, it control the back of the head, neck, shoulder, okay, our fingers, palms and all. Okay, and it include of elbow flexor, wrist extensor, elbow extensor and finger flexor. Next one we have is thoracic. So in the thoracic one, only the T1 includes the finger abductor, okay, and it also include our whole chest area, okay, up to abdomen. Then we have lumbar part, which works the nerves that is connected with this part of the spinal cord, controls hip flexor, knee extensor and ankle dorsiflexors and long toe extensor. Okay, lastly we have S part, which is ankle plantar flexor. So this is how the spinal cord work or help us to doing the works. The next question is structure and function of the liver. So liver is the most largest organ inside our body. It's almost weigh around 1.5 kg to 1.75 kg in the males. Okay. So as we know, the liver have two lobes. Okay, so the right one is bigger lobe and left one is smaller lobe. It also include two minor lobes. Okay, so it is the largest gland and it located in the upper right abdomen. It made of lobe, right, left, major and two minor. The functional unit of the liver is lobules, which is hexagonal structure. It receives blood from the hepatic artery, okay, hepatic artery and the portal vein. Okay, this is the hepatic artery. Okay, from here it receives blood. Now what is the main function of liver? So as you can see the structure of this, the liver actually helps in the metabolism. Metabolism of what? Metabolism of carbohydrate, protein and fat. Okay, so liver helps to convert the glucose to glycogen or from glycogen to glucose, and it also maintains the blood sugar. Okay, next is protein metabolism, which eliminates the amino acid from the urea. Okay, sometime from the urea, if there will be excessive amount of urea or there is a urea inside our body, it will metabolize the urea and it will convert into amino acid, which helps us to get a proper amino acid, especially helps for the cell structure, okay, in growth of the cells. Next is fat metabolism, which synthesize the cholesterol and lipoproteins. It helps for the for especially for the person who have obesity, they should eat the food which contains a good amount of amino acid and which is helpful for the liver, because liver is the only greatest organ which can metabolize or demetabolize the fat, stored fat. Then detoxification, it removes the drugs, toxins and alcohol from the blood. So if you have heard, the person who drink too much of alcohol, okay, or they consume excessive amount of alcohol, the first thing that will be damaged is their liver. Okay, it can also And for some people, liver cirrhosis is the or liver jaundice is caused because of the excessive amount of alcohol consumption. Okay, so the main function is to remove the drugs, toxin and alcohol from the blood. Then bile production. Now bile is the most important factor in our body, because if bile will not be produced through this, what will happen? The fat consumption will be more, okay, and the fat will not be metabolized, or fat will not be used when we use our energy. Okay, in those cases patient will get easily obese. Okay, so it produces bile for the fat digestion and fat absorption. Then storage, it store glycogen, different kind of vitamin like D, E, K, A, B12, iron and copper. It also do the plasma protein synthesis, which produce albumin, fibrinogen and globulins. It also do immune function, which is Kupffer cells, which actually act as a phagocyte cells. Okay, it consume or it will destroy the microbes. Then blood clotting regulation, synthesize the clotting factors, hormone breakdown, inactivates the insulin, estrogen, etc. And ammonia to urea conversion, which prevents the ammonia buildup in the body. And RCB breakdown, it also break the red blood cells and converts into hemoglobin to bilirubin, which all now this bilirubin and biliverdin is actually producing the color of our stool and the urine. Okay, so this is the structure and function of the liver. Next, move on to the types of epithelial tissue. So as we know, we have different types of tissue. Okay, in that epithelial tissue we'll discuss. This question have come for so many times. Okay, in your exam it can come for 2, 5 or 10 marks. Okay, anything can be happen, so don't forget to check it out. Okay, so epithelial tissue are the layers of cells. Okay, so it divided into two types, simple epithelium and compound epithelium. So simple epithelium have 4 types of epithelial cells: pseudostratified, squamous, cuboidal and columnar. Squamous cell is the most scale, if you have seen the scales of fish, okay, very thin like cell. Okay, the cells are very thin and they have small nucleus. Okay, and this mainly if you will see in the layers of any organ, okay, or protection layer like meninges, or if you see pleura, okay, in that you can see the squamous cell. Then cuboidal cell, the shapes of the cuboidal cell will be cube like, okay, whereas the columnar cell shapes are column like. Okay, the shapes are like column. Now pseudostratified cell, why we will call it pseudostratified? So the pseudostratified cells are actually, it will be conjuncted many types of cells. Other than that, we also have ciliated cells. Now what is ciliated cell, I will tell you. If you see in the base of the cell structure, okay, these are the cells, okay, and it have hair like projection. Okay, we will call it as ciliated cell. We can see it in trachea, okay, or it is best for the consumption of any kind of nutrient and for the to attach into anything. Okay, so this cell are mainly seen in trachea. Columnar cell are be seen in intestine. Cuboidal cells you can see in the kidney, as we have already learned previously. In kidney we can see cuboidal cells, and squamous cell we can see in the lungs. So pseudostratified cells are 2 types, one is ciliated and one is non-ciliated. The next type we have is compound cell. Now Now in the compound cell, they will change the shape. They have two types, stratified and transitional. The stratified have again three types, which are stratified squamous, stratified cuboidal and stratified columnar. So what is meant by stratified? It will not end up in one layer. Okay, it will not end up in one layer. It will be having 3-4 layers of cell. Okay, it will have 3-4 layers of cells or more than that. Okay, so stratified squamous cell you can see in the skin, the stratified epithelium cuboidal cells you can see in the sweat glands, and the columnar one you can see in our conjunctiva. Okay, lastly we have the stratified squamous cell. We again have two types, that is keratinized and non-keratinized. Keratinized are the cell who have hairs, okay, keratin protein in their cell, and non-keratinized are who don't have any kind of protein or hair-like projection in the cell. Okay, keratinized tissue you can find it in our scalp, in our underarms, okay, in the pubic area, and non-keratinized are those who don't have this type of this type of protein in their cells. So that these are the types of epithelial tissue. Next we will move on to the anatomy and physiology of heart. So we have seen how heart is functioning. We have known what are the parts of heart. So you will see here, so it located in the mid sternum, surrounded by the pericardium. What is pericardium? It is a protective layer. So it have 4 chambers, right, left atrium, right and left ventricle. It have 3 valves, which is 4 valves, sorry, tricuspid, pulmonary, aortic and mitral valve. So what is the function of the heart? So it will produce the heart rate, which is 60 to 100 beat per minute, and regulate the autonomic nervous system. The stroke volume of the heart is 70 blood pump per beat. Okay, to produce one beat, okay, to produce one heartbeat, our heart will pump 70 ml of blood. Then cardiac output. So cardiac output is equal to heart rate into stroke volume, which is 5 liter per minute. So in 1 minute our heart is actually producing, or sorry, not producing, pumping 5 liters of blood. Then blood pressure. What is blood pressure? It maintained by the CO and resistance, and it is baroreceptors are also involved in the blood pressure. What is the stroke? The stroke volume, or depend on the stroke of the blood circulation. Blood pressure actually depends. Our normal blood pressure is 120 by 80 mm of Hg. The electrical system, which will the electrical response, okay, or electrical impulse will travel through the SA node to AV node, from AV nodes to bundle of His, from bundle of His to Purkinje, okay, which ensures the rhythmic contraction of the heart, okay, contraction and expansion. Then coronary circulation, which supplies blood to the heart muscle, okay, and also in the diaphragm. Then autonomic control, which control the sympathetic, which will sympathetic circulation, which will increase the heart rate and the force of the blood fluid, and parasympathetic, which will reduce the heart rate. The next one is Starling law, which is the more the heart will stretch, the more it will get stronger. So this is the anatomy and physiology of heart. Next we will see the anatomy and the function of brain stem. So firstly we have seen what is spinal cord. Now we will see the brain. So brain stem is the lower part of the brain that connects the cerebrum with the spinal cord. Okay, so from the cerebrum to up to the start of spinal cord is called as brain stem. So the brain stem, sorry, not from that, so from the thalamus up to the medulla oblongata is called as brain stem, and from the medulla oblongata up to the vertebrae column, the spinal cord will be present. Okay, and it is situated at the base of the brain, the anterior to the cerebellum and posterior to the spinal cord. The parts of the brainstem include midbrain, pons and medulla oblongata. What is the function of the brainstem? It regulates the vital functions such as heart rate, breathing, blood pressure pathway, for motor and sensory signals. It controls the sleep and wake cycle. It manages the reflexes of our body like swallow, coughing, vomiting and eye movement. Okay, these sort of things are controlled by the brainstem. So what is the function of the midbrain? So we have seen these are the main function of brainstem, but in detail we will see what are the functions of the parts of the brainstem. So the midbrain is located below the thalamus. Okay, after the thalamus the midbrain is located. The cerebral peduncles carry the motor signals, and also corpora quadrigemina will be superior colliculi, and it will do the visual reflexes. It also, and the inferior colliculi will be producing or will be receiving the auditory reflexes, and it contains the cranial nerves 3 and 4 nuclei. Whereas the pons is located between the midbrain and the medulla. It connects the cerebrum to the cerebellum via the nerve fiber, and it helps to regulate the respiration. Okay, our respiration process. It contains nuclei of cranial nerves including 5, 6, 7 and 8. Lastly, we have medulla oblongata, which is the lowest part of the brainstem. Okay, it continues with the spinal cord, and after that it will continue to the spinal cord, and the vital centers like cardiac, respiratory, breathing and vasomotor or blood pressure control will be controlled by the medulla oblongata. The reflexes it produces: vomiting, coughing, sneezing, swallowing. The predymal the pyramidal decussation will control the motor fibers which will cross the side. So this is the function. And lastly, we have cranial nerve. So the medulla oblongata also is the center of cranial nerves, number 9, 10, 11 and 12 nuclei present. Okay, so this is the anatomy and the functions of the brainstem. Next, we have digestion of the carbohydrate, protein and fat. So as we know, the main digestion of food will happen in the digestive system. So what the things it include? So the digestive path include mouth, esophagus, stomach, small intestine, large intestine, rectum and anus. Okay. So in the digestion system, first we have is mouth. Mouth is contained with salivary glands which will produce salivary enzymes which begin with the carbohydrate digestion and break the food particles. Where the pharynx will direct the food. Now after chewing and all, after mixing with saliva, the pharynx will direct the foods into the stomach. Okay, into the stomach to prevent choking. Then we have, as I told, salivary glands which will moisten the or lubricates the food, and it will mix the enzyme to amylase, digest the carbohydrates. Okay. Then after the pharynx, the esophagus will carry the food down from the mouth to the stomach. Now what stomach will do? Stomach will secrete the gastric juice and hydrochloric acid and activates the enzymes, different kind of enzymes which will continue to break down the food and kill any kind of pathogen that is present inside the food, and it store or crunch the food. An enzyme like pepsin will be released and digest the protein particles from the food. Then we have liver. Liver is the largest organ inside the body, and it makes bile, okay, fluid that helps to break down the fat and absorb the fat and get rid of waste in the body. So it changes food into energy, and it also clears alcohol, some medicine, poisons from the blood. It stores vitamins, irons, and destroy the old blood cell. Okay, so after, actually the normal blood cell lifeline is 80 to 120 days. So after 120 days, what happened, it will go to the liver, and liver will destroy the blood cell. Okay, it will destroy the red blood cell, and from the red blood cell it will produce bilirubin. Okay, sorry, bilirubin. So after that, what happened, from the stomach, whatever is digested, again the gallbladder function will be entered here. So it will store the bile made in the liver, then it will empty into the small intestine. So when the stomach bolus or whatever the food particle is absorbed and digested, the excess product will go into the small intestine. Okay, and while it will entering, gallbladder also will release the biles. Okay, it will release the biles, and it will mix there to digest, to help to digest in the fat, and stones can form within the gallbladder. Okay, this is a problem. Sometimes some patient can feel gallbladder stone. Okay, then the small intestine, in the small intestine it will digest protein, fats, carbohydrates, the bacterial metabolism, plus the nutrients, and excess water will be absorbed. Then the surface is covered in villi for greater absorption, will be absorbing the nutrients. The surface, the site of the fructose malabsorption, and this is also the site where the fructose malabsorption and celiac disease can occur. Here the pancreas will play a great role. It is a gland that makes enzyme for the digestion, and the bicarbonate to neutralize the stomach acid. Also it makes the hormone to insulin, which helps the body to turn food into energy and regulates the blood sugar levels. After small intestine, it will reach out to large intestine. We have appendix here. This is have no work. This is a pouch that is attached to our body. The large intestine, also called as colon, it absorbs the water and electrolytes from the stool. Okay, so now whatever the waste product, it will form as a stool. So from the stool it will collect the water and electrolyte. It also contains the beneficial bacteria which helps to produce certain types of vitamins. Okay, now this large intestine will forms and store the feces, and after some time it will pass it out to the rectum, where the lower, which is the lower end and of the large intestine, which is leading to anus, stores and expel the feces. And anus is the opening or the end of the digestive tract where the bowel movement leave the body. So this is how digestion of carbohydrate proteins is taking place inside our body. The next one is anatomy of the female reproductive system. So female reproductive system have two parts, external and internal. In internal we have fallopian tube, ovary, uterus, cervix, vagina, which places inside the female pelvis, and we have external reproductive system, which includes mons pubis, clitoris, urethral opening, labia majora, labia minora, hymen and vaginal opening. So the external organs, which called as vulva, is include of labia majora, minora, clitoris and vestibules. The internal organs include vagina, which is a muscular canal, uterus, which pear-shaped fundus body of cervix. Okay, and the fallopian tubes, which are the site of the fertilization, where ovum and sperm take place for the fertilization, ovaries which produce ova or ovum and different kind of hormones. It's supported by the ligaments. So here is the structure. Here you can see. So this is our uterus. Okay, this is the cervix. After cervix we have vagina. Okay, This is the cervix part and this is the vagina. Here it is cervix, this is vagina. Okay, so we have ovary and artery, ligament of the ovary. Okay, then uterine cavity where actually the fetus will grow. Okay, so this is the anatomy of the reproductive system. Lastly, we have structure and function of the pancreas. So pancreas is a leaf-like or fish-like long tail structure which have three parts: body, tail and middle. Okay, so sorry, neck, head and body and tail. So it located in the posterior to the stomach in the upper abdomen. Okay, it have two gland, dual gland, exocrine and endocrine. Exocrine part will compose to acinar cells. Okay, remember it, acinar cells or acinar cells, which secretes the pancreatic enzymes, especially like amylase, lipase and trypsin. It drains via pancreatic duct into the duodenum. The endocrine part contains islets of Langerhans which produce insulin and glucagon through the alpha cells and beta cells and the delta cells which produce the somatostatin. Okay, it also helps to regulate the blood sugar level of our body. What is the main function of pancreas? First one is to digest the nutrients, which is the function of the exocrine part, and regulation of blood sugar, which is the function of endocrine part. Next is the cerebral hemisphere. So the cerebral hemisphere are two diverse symmetrical valves inside our brain of the cerebrum and the largest part of the brain. It is responsible for higher brain function. Here you can see in the picture. In the front side we have frontal lobe. Here we have central sulcus. Then we have parietal lobe, occipital lobe. In the back side we have cerebellum, spinal cord, you know guys. Okay, pons, medulla. Then after the frontal lobe will end, there will be temporal lobe. Okay, so this have two hemisphere, right and left. Okay, it is located in the forebrain, which occupy the cranial cavity above the brainstem and cerebellum. Okay, the structure is located with the two hemisphere, right and left. It's separated by the longitudinal fissure or hair-like division. Okay, it is connected by corpus callosum, a thick bundle of nerve fibers. The outer part cerebral cortex or gray matter, and the inner part is white matter or basal ganglia. What is the function of the frontal lobe? Okay, so the frontal lobe actually helps for the voluntary movement, speech, okay, and planning. The parietal lobe will it will receive the electrical impulses or sensory impulses like touch, pain and spatial awareness. The temporal lobe, here is the temporal lobe, you can see the green one. Okay, so temporal lobe will helps in auditory processing, memory. Occipital lobe will help for the visual perception. Hemispheric dominance, which will the left hemisphere will help for logical and analytical and language, whereas the right hemisphere will help for the creativity, sapital ability. Okay, so in the lobes of each hemisphere, the frontal lobe will do the motor functions and decision making. The parietal lobe will do the sensory processing. Okay, any kind of touch, pain and touch or pain, okay, or feeling of numbness, anything. This will happen in the parietal lobe. This will controlled by the parietal lobes. Okay, the occipital lobe will help for the visual, and the insula, which controls the emotional and taste, deep within the lateral sulcus. Okay, so this is the cerebral hemisphere. Next we have deltoid muscle. So deltoid muscle is a large muscle. It is a triangular shaped muscle that forms the rounded counter in the shoulder. It plays a crucial role in movement of our arm. Okay, on the scapula side, tilt up to our arm, you can see. Okay, so this is the deltoid muscle. Okay, it starts from the scapula. Okay, so the deltoid muscle originates from 3 points. Okay, lateral third of the clavicle or front or the anterior part, the acromion process of the scapula, the middle part, and the spine of the scapula, which is posterior part. What is the function of the deltoid muscle? It is to the anterior fibers flex and medially rotate the arm. Okay, it helps to rotate our arm, the anterior fibers. The middle fibers are responsible for abduction of the arm, like lifting it sideways. Okay, so this is the function. Lastly, we have the posterior fibers which extend the lateral to rotate the arm. Okay, so these are the main function of deltoid muscle. Then the insertion. It inserts into the deltoid muscle tuberosity in the lateral surface of our humerus, our first bone. Okay, first bone of our hand, humerus. The nerve supply. The muscle is inverted by the axillary nerve from the spinal or cervical nerve C5 to C6. The blood supply is mainly from the posterior circumflex of humeral artery and a branch of the thoracocriminal artery. So this is the anatomy of the deltoid muscle. Then we have nasal cavity. The nasal cavity, we can see the front, we have frontal sinus. This is the nasal bone. Okay, this is the septal cartilage. Now this cartilage, sometimes what happened, people with the broken nose also have to gone for the surgery. Okay, or people who have deformed septal cartilage can have different type of breathing difficulty, so they have to go for the surgeries. So we have nasal bone, perpendicular palate, septal cartilage, vermonocellular cartilage, maxilla, which helps for the smelling also. Okay, vomer, palatal bone, pharyngeal tonsils, okay, sphenoid sinus and all. Okay, so the location where it is located, it located into the our oral cavity. It divided by the nasal septum. It divided into vestibules, respiratory region and olfactory region. Olfactory regions also helps for the smelling. Okay, it lies with pseudo-stratified ciliated columnar epithelium, which helps to secrete the mucus and also helps to object or gulp or to attach the particles so that it will not go inside our body. The lateral wall have conchae which tribinates and mestuous. Okay, what is the function of nasal cavity? It warms, moisten and filtrates the air. The olfactory region helps for the smelling. What is the applied anatomy of the nasal cavity? It helps in the deviated nasal septum, breathing issues, nasal polyps, obstruction and epistaxis from the Caseblage plexus. Okay, or nosebleed also you can say. Next is classification of bone. So bones are the structure which is excuse me, sorry guys. Okay, so bones are the strong structure of our body which provides a frame to our body to hold the organs, muscles, blood and veins and arteries. Okay, so bones have been divided into different types like long, short, flat, irregular and sesamoid bone based on the shape. So we will see from the head to toe what are the bones are present. Okay, so we have frontal, nasal, temporal, zygomatic, maxilla bone, which is also called as cranial bones. Okay, then we have thoracic bone or thoracic vertebrae. We have rib cage. Okay, here you can see rib cage. Then in the hand, and this is the clavicle. Okay, and in the back side of our hand we can see two scapula are present. So see, we will see what is in the hand. So we have humerus, radius and ulnar, carpal, metacarpal, phalanges. Then this is our spinal cord, okay, our spinal vertebrae, lumbar vertebrae. Then after that we have our pelvis, okay, which is the main supporter of the upper part of our body, okay. So now in the legs what we have? Femur, tibia and fibula, okay. This thin bone is called as fibula, okay. And in the legs we have tarsal, metatarsal and phalanges bone, okay. Phalanges bone include proximal, middle and distal bone. Tarsal include calcaneus, talus, lateral and cuneiform bone, okay. So long bones which are the length is wide is called as long bone. Example as femur and humerus, which is present in our upper side of hand and upper side of our leg. The short bones are cube shaped. Example as carpal and tarsal, you can see in our fingers. Flat bones are thin flat protective layer like our sternum, okay. We can see in the chest area, okay. We have rib cage which is divided by the sternum, okay. This is a thin flat protective bone. In the ribs, skulls also you can see. Then irregular bones which are very complex shapes such as vertebra, okay. Vertebra is placed in our spinal cord. Then pelvic bones which helps to support our upper part of body, and sesamoid bones which is embedded into tendons. Examples as patella, okay, which is placed on the knees. So these are the classification of bone. What is the main function of bone? The main functions are to support, protect, movement, mineral storage and blood cell production. So in the bone we have bone marrow where the blood cells are actually produced. Okay, so here I have finished all the long answer. Now we will discuss some little short answer which can come in exams, okay. First one is Bowman's capsule. This is a part of the urinary system, okay. It is a cup-shaped structure in the nephron which surrounds the glomerulus. It collect and filtrate from the blood during the urine formation, okay. Then name the parts of the respiratory system. As we explained, nose, pharynx, larynx, trachea, bronchi, lungs are the parts of the respiratory system. Name the ventricles of the vein. So ventricles include right lateral ventricle, left lateral ventricle, third ventricle and fourth ventricle. Name of the four cranial nerves: olfactory, optic, vestibulocochlear, facial, vagus, okay. Then name of the four endocrine glands: pituitary glands, thyroid glands, adrenaline glands and pancreas gland. Remember, pancreas act as both, okay, endocrine, exocrine, both. Then the next question is main two function of the cerebellum. Cerebellum coordinates for the voluntary muscle movement and it maintains the balance and the posture of the body. Name the coverings of the heart: the fibrous pericardium, parietal pericardium and visceral pericardium or epicardium are the three layers or coverings of the heart. Name two muscles that used for intramuscular injection: deltoid muscle and gluteal muscle, okay. Deltoid muscle is placed in here and gluteal muscle is placed in the buttocks. What is the cerebrospinal fluid? It is a clear fluid in the brain and the spinal cord. It protects the central nervous system and removes the waste product. The next one is name two salivary glands. We have two types of salivary gland: parotoid and submandibular. Define the cell's name and its organelle. Cell is a basic structural and functional unit of our life. Okay, the organelles are nuclei, mitochondria, ribosome, endoplasmic reticulum, okay, mesosome. Mention two types of connective tissue. We have adipose tissue and bone tissue. These two tissues are connective tissue. Name any two parts of large intestine, ascending colon and sigmoid colon. Write the names of layer of the skin. The three layers of the skin are epidermis, dermis and hypodermis or subcutaneous layer. What are the function of the red blood cell? The main function is to transport the oxygen using the hemoglobin, can carry carbon dioxide to the lungs for the exhalation. Define tissue and the name two types. Tissue are the group of similar cells performing a particular function. Example as epithelial cell and muscle tissue. Epithelial tissue and muscle tissue. Name two types of cartilage. Hyaline cartilage and elastic cartilage. Elastic cartilage can be stretched, okay, but hyaline are not able to be stretched, okay. Name the valves of the heart. Tricuspid, pulmonar, mitral and aortic valve. Name the main parts of the brain. Cerebellum, cerebrum, brainstem, which including midbrain, pons and medulla. So that's it guys. I have discussed the most important question. If you have missed something out, you can check it back. The live stream is still going on and it is been recorded and it will be posted in the EasyNow app as well if you can't find it in the YouTube. So thank you for the session guys. See you in the next session. Till then, keep learning and keep exploring with EasyNow. Best of wishes for your exams. Thank you.